You met Kristie and Cameron Pearson in our last episode of Behind Closed Doors. Now we'll learn more about the future and what lies ahead for Cameron as they become an adult. All right, well, cheers, Kristie, to another cup of tea. I've never had so much tea in my entire life, but yeah, no, the story continues. So I guess I want to talk about the future. You're graduating 2024.
Yeah.
Excited, obviously.
A little bit terrified, but still excited.
Oh, well, so what is in the cards for Cameron after high school?
I'm hoping to go to school in Montreal for university because I went to a French school for like K to 6, and so I have a pretty decent French background, and I'd like to be able to get that back because I've lost a lot of that being at an English school for the last couple of years. And so yeah, I'm planning on studying biology and then maybe going to med school. It's planned right now, but I don't know, things change, so we'll see.
Oh, things changed. Yeah, I know. He's 17 again, right? Oh my gosh. Kristie, let's talk about, I guess, the people along the way that made an impact, not only on Cameron, but for you and your family as a whole. Like, we haven't talked at all about your husband and Cameron's brothers. Yeah. How do they fit into the whole story?
Well, it's been pretty wonderful, actually. So I would say Cameron's going to smirk here because obviously with two brothers, there's ups and downs. But both Cameron's brothers, when Cameron came out, didn't even bat an eye, and pretty much seamlessly changed pronouns, not messing up very much at all. I took a while with pronouns a little bit. The name change, everyone also just kind of rolled with it. So, and then your father has been a very understanding and good ally for you as well. So I think, and his brothers have stepped up and made Cameron feel safe in the family in different respects in different places. So we've been pretty grateful. I think that the younger generation in general tends to be really, really different with stuff like this. So in talking to anyone in the younger generations, mentioning that my child Cameron is non-binary, there's never even a change in their facial expressions. And it's kind of how they feel, right? I'm sure there are some kids in certain areas that maybe have been brought up in a different way, but we have had some really good experiences in our family and with other young people, especially.
And like, have there been organizations or programs or, groups that have really made a difference and, helped you?
Well, Rainbow Resource has been a big support for me, myself, as a parent, and to understand what being an ally is. There's some excellent training that I was able to take part in that is mostly for workplaces, but it talks a lot about pronoun usage and the why, and the learning the stuff behind. I'm fortunate that I can get a lot of my learnings at home through Cameron, and Cameron will correct me in something that I've said that is not appropriate, or will help me learn more, passing on different people to follow on Instagram that will teach me things, and different books and etc. But Rainbow was able to offer me kind of a background, different level of education as a mom to really be able to be a better ally to Cameron and other folks. They also provide a lot of other supports to teens and even seniors, all folks that need a circle of supports and need that extra help. Cameron's had been very lucky with a good therapist that Cameron sees that has also been very helpful to help Cameron walk through different challenges.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've gone through, I guess, your early years of challenges. You're now going to be heading into your middle years that'll hopefully give you a basis once you graduate to your older years, where we all, where it should be rainbows and unicorns, but it's not, and like they're entering adulthood.
Yes.
Is that scary?
A little bit, yeah. I think that any sort of change is bound to be a little bit nerve-wracking, but you know what? There's also a lot of good that comes with that change, so yeah. I'm sorry, Cameron wants to move to Montreal.
Yes.
Does that?
It doesn't surprise me. Cameron kind of came out always wanting to be very independent, wanted to walk themselves to school when they were in kindergarten, and with Cameron being my firstborn, it took me a little bit of getting used to let Cameron go and let Cameron do and lead their own path. But Cameron's kind of always led their own path. So I think that maybe that's been also what's made it easy for me to let Cameron go a little bit. I had to do that so long ago, so many times. You always wanted to do it yourself. Cameron and I also went to Montreal in November to kind of take a look at how it was. And it's a very open, understanding city with a very strong LGBTQ plus community, and the universities themselves all had lots of supports and lots of a large community. So as a mom, it also made me feel good that Cameron would have their people to be with. So because that's important for us all, right? To have like-minded people that are our supports.
Because the worst thing is for them to feel all alone.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Cameron, looking back at the long road of 17 years, words of wisdom, or I don't know what you would call it, but encouragement maybe for others out there, other young people that are struggling.
I think that it's easy to get caught up in all the terrible things happening in the world, and it's easy to just get depressed and down about it. I'll be the first to admit that this world's not easy for trans and non-binary and queer people, especially youth. But the people that are making it harder are a minority. They're a very loud, very vocal minority, but they're still a minority, and it's important to remember that. And if there's anyone that's struggling with acceptance and finding people to support them, there's people out there that will support them, just a matter of finding them.
Right. Is it a matter of being, too, Kristie, a little bit more vocal? I mean, it's hard, but
it is hard, and I would say the way that I post on social media, the way that I behave in a space is different than the way I used to behave. I used to be the quieter person that didn't say much, but I have really learned that if you want to be a good ally, you need to step up and stand up for others. And you need to lean in, and you have to listen, you have to learn, but you have to lift their voices up, because it's not just Cameron that is tired, but when any minority is being put in a position where they're feeling uncomfortable, if you can help that minority person, having their back, letting them know that you're there with them, or helping them fight that fight.
Right.
I think it's important, and I think as allies we have to be vocal, because we don't want that angry minority to take over, and what ends up happening is your youth or your young people grow up feeling really alone, and depression, anxiety, mental health, suicide, they're real. They're real, and those are real consequences of bullying, and that's really what it is.
Like, we wanted to talk about social media. Cameron, you had mentioned, I asked you about how do you deal with the negativity. What in your mind is a positive comment on social media? to what would be the things to say?
I think that as much as you'll see negative comments and people being negative and hateful, there's also a lot of people being positive. There's a lot of people who are queer showing their lives, showing their happiness, and I think that that's really important, because if you look at media, any sorts of stories about queer people tend to be very negative. Oh, this queer person struggles, this queer person is bullied, this queer person has a hard life. There's not very many stories about queer people just existing and being happy, and I think that social media helps to compensate for that.
What are your feelings or comments on, well, they are a member of the legislature, they are the right hand of our premier, Uzoma Azaguara.
I think it's really amazing to see non-binary people in government, because you just don't see that. And so it's really cool for me to see someone like me in a leadership role, doing some really impressive stuff. I think that regardless of your political alignments, you can't deny that what they have had to do in order to be a non-binary person in that position, they've had to work hard for that. And so, but I think that it's really awesome to see that someone like me being represented in government and seeing that I can do that. I can go and be important and make changes and be a leader, because you don't see that.
No, you don't. It's pretty cool. Now, Kristie, you're a very successful businesswoman. The business world. Hey, it's bad enough being a woman. But now, accepting all genders, it's hard. It's still, again, a tough egg to crack.
Yes, yes. I think it's about helping people learn and helping people understand and really feel. It's about feeling, right?
Yeah.
And in fundraising, we know that it's about trying to reach someone's heart. And I think the reason why people give more when you've touched their heart is because they feel for others. And that's what humans want to do. They want to feel for others. They want to relate. And sometimes we can relate more to folks that are very different looking than us than we realize.
What do you think is going to be the toughest part for you? And Kristie, you can jump in. This is like we're just yakking here.
I think that politics are very tricky. If you look at our neighbor to the south, there's a lot of policies being passed that are very, very scary. There's some that are pretty scary being passed in Canada in certain provinces. And I think that it's very terrifying to see people in government, people in Manitoban government, who are running on platforms based on transphobic comments. And some people may not realize that, and so it's important to educate yourself on the underlying meaning of phrases like parental rights and like parents should have a decision in their education. Both those things, just purely at face value, seem like great decisions. Parents should have rights over their children. Parents should have a say in their education, but that's not what those phrases mean. That's not what the people who are running on those campaigns are saying. And I think that that's very prevalent in both our neighbor to the south and here in Canada. And so it's important for anyone of a voting age or not of a voting age to educate themselves and to know who they really are voting for. Because if you vote for people like that, you are making the lives of trans kids and trans people exponentially more difficult. Because those are the people that are going to pass the bills that will lead to trans kids killing themselves.
As a parent, like, oh my God.
Yeah. I do have to say some of what we've been seeing in the States, and when we see in Alberta and different provinces. And then later this summer, we were seeing some marches happening and different talk about books that were in schools, etc. I do believe that most of the people that were engaged in those activities didn't really understand what they were saying, or what it meant, or the impacts what their words were having. And that yes, parents do deserve to have rights and such, but to have a good understanding of what rights parents do have, and that they do have lots and lots of rights, and that the books in the schools aren't as scary as maybe they had thought, but rather than going out with anger, to try to begin with learning and begin with educating yourself first. Right. Before you go to the anger, because I think sometimes the anger comes first before we've
totally
thought about anything.
I know, and it's kind of been our overrunning theme is anger, and you're right, Cameron, there's just so much anger and so much hatred right now in the world. What is the most important or lesson or something that you have learned about yourself in this journey thus far that you didn't know?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't know if this is as much as about myself, it's about just people in general, but
yeah. What you've learned. To
be an ally, it's more than just saying, oh yeah, I support this cause. Oh, I think that these people should have rights. You need to actively be helping people. When I think of allies, I think of people like that teacher that I had that actively tried to make sure that I felt safe in classrooms, in debate tournaments. I think of my brothers that when they hear people saying transphobic stuff, they say, hey, no, why are you saying that? They try and explain to people what being trans means. It's not scary. It's not, they're not terrible. Trans people aren't terrible people. They're not something to be scared of. We're human like anyone else. We just happen to not be the gender we were assigned at birth. So I think that to be an ally for trans people, or any group for that means, you have to be willing to do stuff. You have to be willing to take action, not just say words.
So I think though too, or maybe you've always had it since your mom said you always were a leader, not a follower, but this inner strength I see in you.
Very much.
On the outside, you're very calm or whatever, but I think inside it's a fighter. And I think that it's going to take you a lot of places. And thanks for being so honest and open. And that takes a lot of courage too. And Mom, I think Cameron has a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
That, Telly, find me. Well, I found one 17-year-old, but find me, a group of 17-year-olds that have empathy. But I do know that they do exist. But again, it's the environment that they live in. It's the friends they choose to acquaint themselves with.
And our world has so much fear right now, and fear and anger are best friends, right? So I think it's about us all realizing that, like Cameron said, being an ally, it's not a noun. You can't just be an ally. No. I say it like, I can't just be a runner if I don't run.
Exactly.
So to be an ally, that's a decision you make in every moment. So you're not an ally. You behave like one, or you are trying to be an ally, but you're not an ally.
Well, and for yourself, Kristie, what have you learned?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is to keep learning and to keep listening.
That's why she's going to be working a long time.
And it's like really, because I I listen. I try to listen. I try to learn, but you can never stop learning from other people, because that's that's how you all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Comes from leaning in and learning.
And I guess that's your piece of advice for parents.
Yes. Listen to your children and learn from them, because that next generation has so much information that we weren't given when we were young. And also just remember, it's not really our life they're living, it's theirs. And so we've got to be there to have their backs, but we're not leading them anymore. It's their journey to lead themselves.
No, take the reins. There you go.
Yes.
Good luck in Montreal. Okay, thanks so much. Now you can eat.
Thank you.